We are looking at this other big story this hour as well, with the reports coming in of a possible thaw in India-China standoff at the LAC. De-escalation is what seems to be on the anvil. The Indian troops seized control of dominating heights on the strategically important Kailash range during the night of 29th August, a move that infuriated the Chinese. The People's Liberation Army has since then been adamant and has persistently demanded that disengagement must begin with the Indian troops withdrawing from the Kailash range because India has altered the status quo. Indian troops rushed to occupy positions on the Kailash range to deny any further strategic advances for the Chinese and halt their advances into Indian territory and prevent them from altering the status quo. An earlier media report had claimed that China has completed fresh constructions near Mount Kailash to deploy surface-to-air missiles based on the recent satellite images. Kailash Mansarovar is one of the most important religious sites for Hindus who travel there for pilgrimage. Major General Shashi Asthana, former additional DG Infantry and Security Analyst, is joining us live. Dr. Shrikant Kondapalli, Foreign Policy Analyst, is joining us live as well. Sumit Peer, political commentator, is with us live. Professor Madhav Nalapat, Editorial Director of the Sunday Guardian, joins the broadcast as well. Major General Asthana, let me begin with you first. Certainly this move seems to have rattled the Chinese and also can be looked at as one of the reasons why they want and they will agree now to de-escalate if these fresh reports are to be believed. Indian soldiers occupying various points of the Mount Kailash range. Do you believe this was a very clever strategic move?
No, it was a very important strategic move. And before I answer you, let me put things in context. We all understand the human cost, the financial cost, and the resultant political cost of the extended standoff during winter months. Now, this is the reason as to why these reports of possible disengagement and possible plans for disengagements are emerging in the media circles in various forms. Now, as we talk of Kailash range, I do not find that we should be getting back or we should be vacating Kailash range at all. For the simple reason, because it's a very, very strategically important for us. It dominates the Spangur Gap. Now, this is the gap from where the south tanks columns from the south of Pangong Tso can come and get into our critical areas, which is open valley, which opens both ways towards Leh as well as towards the lake. So therefore, this is important to us. Similarly, we cannot go in for an agreement wherein Depsang continues to be with them, Y Junction continues with them, and they just agreed to go back from finger 4 to finger 8 with all infrastructure in place. There are certain concerns. In fact, yesterday's publication of mine gives all these concerns in great details. Let me just flag it for a minute. One, there is no guarantee that Chinese cannot come back. They have better infrastructure, they can come back faster. We will take that much of mobilization time, and that will force us to be reactive again if this is to be agreed upon. Secondly, Chinese are looking for a winter break. They are fed up of winter casualties. So what they are trying to do is, okay, have a break now, try and pull back, go in for such an arrangement or disengagement, so-called buffer zones, creating so-called buffer zones, and thereafter, at their own sweet will, when summers come, you occupy it again. Now, we know that Chinese cannot be trusted, and therefore what will amount to is, even if we are trying to reduce the cost, or if we are trying to compromise to reduce the cost, the problem will be that because of this mistrust and because of their likelihood of getting back again, you will have to LOCization of LAC is unavoidable, and therefore we will still be sitting on temperature which are running into minus. So, in my opinion, it is better that either Depsang, Y Junction and all other areas also be included, number one. Number two, we should not get down from Kailash range. Number three, as far as the total disengagement is concerned, we should be looking for a prolonged standoff and forcing them for demarcation of line of actual control. Because unless this is done, this is going to be a continuous exercise, and these standoffs are going to continue whenever they feel that strategically they have to give a message to India.
Absolutely. And, clearly, of course, Sumit, we all know the significance of Mount Kailash. It's a very important yatra for Hindus. And also, the fact is that it's a very strategically located area as well. And the Chinese were looking to advance further if our Indian Jawans had not acted with alacrity.
I think, Uday, first of all, thanks for having me on your show. Well, I have 3-4 points on this, what my analysis says. First of all, the point which has to be made clear, Mount Kailash starts from Mount Kailash and comes down to south of Pangong Tso Lake. So all the important point is the 450-kilometer range. So we are not talking of an isolated valley or isolated mountain. That's the point number one. So if you have dominance on that, you literally have dominance of 450 kilometers, which is point number two. For the first time, after 1962, when we lost this, when the Mount Kailash went to China in 1952 and they took Tibet, but we had a village called Minsar, which was 32 kilometers from Mount Kailash, and it was under the province of or the state of J&K, and they were collecting taxes after that. So in 1962, we lost that. We lost the Leh route through Dimchuk to the Kailash Mansarovar. Now we have lost a lot of things. Now for the first time, Indian Army has taken a very aggressive stand, and they are today, if you go by some international media reports also, I'm not saying Indian media, I'm saying quoting international media also, we are dominating an area of 70 to 100 kilometers in this range, which is very, very strategic. It is rattling Chinese because for the first time after 1962, they have literally lost dominance of around 100 kilometers stretch of line. And let me tell you one thing, sir, you got a very pertinent point, and I must congratulate you for bringing this on news. You know why? Because a lot of people do not know why is China deploying SAMs there. They are this called HQ-9 SAMs. What are HQ-9 SAMs doing there? Why there are mobile deployments? Why you have constructed bunkers? Two motives. One motive is that you are trying to protect some air defense, or is Mount Kailash your target? Are you putting Mount Kailash, which is very relevant and strategic to Hindus, for the Hindu faith, 1.5 billion of us, on a bargaining chip? But now with this dominance, with this us going in, they are on the back foot. They are now seen to get out of this situation. I completely agree what General Asthana said. They cannot handle the winter cold. They don't have no experience of handling cold wars. The wars in cold. We have 36 years of Siachen experience. They lack that. They completely. They are in the back foot. They must go back. Disengagement cannot mean Kailash, has not to include Kailash, because if you disengage, there's nothing which is left there. And let me tell you one third point of that. If you look at the Kailash Mansarovar, there is only one 500 brick stairs, 500 brick structure called Yamdwar. Minus that, these atheist Chinese have not allowed anything to come. There is no temple, there is no Shivlinga, there is not even a hutment which they are allowed to build except a Yamdwar, which is a 500 brick structure. This is the true nature of atheist China. And what we have got today, after 1962, after 70, 60 odd years, for the first time, we have 70 to 100 kilometer dominance on Kailash range. Now, the thing is, Kailash Parvat bahut nazdeek hai. We are very near to our devoted and beloved Kailash Parvat. There is no question of coming back, sir. And it's good you're letting these people know. Let the people know. Hum Kailash ke paas hai. I rest my case.
Professor Madhav Nalapat, India is firm on its stand. India will not allow any of our sovereign territory to be taken by the Chinese. India will insist on status quo ante, and we are prepared for the long haul, but it seems the Chinese obviously aren't. There is a proposal now which has been tabled in the last co-commander meeting, which calls for de-escalation. Now, sources tell us that the Chinese may be inclined to agree to it, but obviously their word cannot be trusted until there is action on ground. Professor Nalapat, do you agree?
Well, I'd like to say that way back in April, I was among the few who pointed out that, look, we are going to get into trouble. These people are going to try and once again change the line of control. Now you have an actual LAC. There's no LAC from the Chinese point of view. They just keep moving it outwards. Well, exactly that happened. And from then on, I've been very clear, the only negotiations with the Chinese side is to go back to the status quo ante before the 3rd of May. And these disengagement talks are nothing to do with the status quo ante. And I am certain that a Prime Minister resolute as Narendra Modi will not agree to that, will not agree to a kind of compromise, which in the past, for example, there have been efforts by Prime Ministers to compromise on Karakoram. that India withdraw from Karakoram, it becomes a zone of peace, it becomes a tourist pass, as though lakhs of tourists can land up in Karakoram just through a bus ride. Then you know what happened in Kargil. It was during the Gujarat government that in the winter, soldiers moved out of Kargil. And then this was unfortunately further continued by the Vajpayee government. And you know what happened in Kargil. They were occupied by the Pakistani side. So the reality is, look, the Chinese are looking at the entire Himalayan massif. They will want to humiliate India. And frankly, with what is there to disengage on the Indian side? It is not India that has advanced in May. It is China. It is the PLA. And the reality of the situation is that if you do this kind of so-called mutual disengagement, it's entirely one-sided. And it becomes as one-sided as the Simla agreement, for example, which was totally one-sided. The Tashkent agreement, which was totally one-sided. And frankly, in my view, this is no disengagement agreement. The only thing to negotiate is the return to the status quo ante as on the 3rd or 4th of May of this year. And going back even 10 steps from any part of the Kailash range that the military has is wrong. Secondly, we should be looking at getting back Depsang. We should be looking at getting back the Y junction. And as has correctly been said by the general, today the Chinese are in a vulnerable position.
Yes.
So I certainly hope that wrong choices will not be made and you will go in for a disengagement engagement, which is really, frankly, giving up the gains of the soldiers. And I do believe Prime Minister Modi will not agree to that kind of a compromise, a one-sided compromise that weakens the Indian position and that frankly, makes a mockery of the sacrifices of our soldiers.
Okay, Dr. Kondapalli, your first reading of the situation of a possible de-escalation as well. How much the Chinese can be believed at face value on the basis of what they say in the core commander level talks, and also, sir, this strategic push, this act of our soldiers of capturing, these very important points at Mount Kailash. How much has this infuriated the Chinese? How much was this a very clever tactical maneuver? Dr. Kondapalli, you'll have to unmute yourself.
The first point is, why should we be believing this speculation? There is speculation that a 3-point de-escalation plan has been hatched at the 8th round of talks. Why should we be believing in this? Because even the Chinese reports say that these are inaccurate, that it is not part of the discussion, etc. So, number one, there is a problem with the proposal itself of a three-stage plan. Assuming that there is some truth in this, let us see. On August 29th, the SFF had gone and regained control over the Kailash ranges. There has not been any letdown on that aspect till now. And we have seen that a Pakistani intelligence report suggested that the PLA commander at the local area, he wanted to do action on the helmet top. However, he refused to take the orders from above, fearing casualties on his side, on the PLA side, Chinese military side. Now, if we also take this report into consideration, then there is a dominant, the domination that India had acquired in this region. Secondly, if you look at the Prime Minister's comments day before yesterday, celebrating Diwali with the Indian troops in the western sector, he had commented not just about Pakistan, but also indirectly on the expansionist mindset of the northern neighbor. Obviously, the suggestion is about China. The Prime Minister mentioned during his visit to Ladakh the similar comments. He mentioned this in Tokyo in September 2014. He mentioned this in Pasighat while he was campaigning in February 2014. So there has been a consistent position by the Prime Minister on the expansionist and what we need to do about it. Now, the proposal that has been mentioned in the Indian press is that the Chou En-lai's November 1959 line will be formed up in these latest discussions. But the officials deny that there has been any forward momentum on that count, because we refuse to accept the November 1959 line in the 93 agreement, 96 agreement, and all other subsequent agreements that we signed with the Chinese on the line of actual control and the CBMs related. The other point I wanted to raise as well is at the moment, today's temperature in that region is minus 23 degrees centigrade. And in the next week or so, it will go down to about minus 50 to minus 60 degrees. No machinery functions, no machine functions, no human being can function. The brain refuses to be efficient during that kind of temperature. So the Chinese also proposed that we mutually withdraw. Let us see if this is a temporary suggestion. Because all the reports that we saw in the Indian press came from some political dispensation or the other.
Yeah.
Some lieutenant general, some colonel who had some political affiliations, they have raised these issues. So why should we be believing in these reports?
Okay. Mijan Lasana, I want you to respond to that. Mijan Lasana, go ahead.
Yeah, firstly, there is no official report to that extent, and I agree with what the professor mentioned. These were the media speculations as well as media reports. In fact, why speculations? They were reports, and all these reports were saying sources told us. Now, in that context, they were looking at the initial reports came as 3-stage disengagement plan, and these speculations also went off from the MEA reports as well as from what Chief said a few days back, that okay, we are working out something and some arrangements are being worked out, etc., which are mutually beneficial, etc. So people are trying to put 2 and 2 together. But notwithstanding that, there are a few things which we need to highlight at this point of time. One, the political messaging is quite strong. Prime Minister Modi has given very strong political messages. At the same time, when we read the messaging of the MEA, it doesn't seem to be that strong. It is slightly, firstly, toned down, secondly, confusing, because sometimes you get a message for a response of blaming China or naming China, you don't interfere in our internal matters, we don't interfere in yours. Whereas he drags you to Security Council for Kashmir. He openly says, I don't recognize Ladakh. Their ambassador sitting in Delhi names India as an aggressor. We say expansionist design should not be tolerated. Now, this is the response which we are giving. Now, this is not only confusing us, it is also confusing the rest of the Quad members and rest of the world as to what are these Indian MEA trying. Are they trying to still work it out with China, or they are confronting China, or there is a standoff? So there is a little bit of, I think, the strategic idea of strategic ambiguity beyond a point should be controlled, and we should be reasonably clear as to what we want to do. As far as military is concerned, it's absolutely clear. Political statements have been reasonably clear, and I don't think I have no quarrels with that as well. So therefore, this is certainly this 3-stage or 3-step disengagement, and saying that Depsang we will deal separately, that is certainly should be unacceptable to India, because Depsang, because of Depsang and Y Junction being with them, they have achieved one strategic aim of theirs, and that is providing depth to National Highway 219 and Karakoram Pass, and also threatening our DBO and the DSDBO road. So this is what they achieve out of this, and that should not be accepted, and therefore we cannot afford to freeze the situation in this manner.
All right, we've run out of time. My thanks to all of our guests for joining us.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.